Lucy Dilbert? Here.
Which one?
Lucy Dilbert?
Here.
What I thought.
No, got it, Chris.
Greg Sims?
Here?
Genevieve Rodzik?
Here.
Rob Pennell?
Present.
Chris Dilbert?
Here.
And Rachel Woodsett.
Okay, public hearings, we have none. Approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Public comments on agenda items. Also none. Approval of the minutes. First set of minutes we'll do is the regular meeting minutes of July 6th, 2021.
Motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Special meeting, July 14th, 2021.
Motion to approve as presented.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Communications correspondence workshop, we have none. Matters for consideration, old business, zoning and rezoning considerations.
And we'll let Rob just pass this on.
I would like to make a motion to forward to council with their thoughts on us proceeding with public hearings and playing out the rezoning of the following properties. On Roselle Street, as discussed on the map, to multifamily. Arlington within the boundaries of Decorah Park. It's currently multifamily to single family. Arlington to 27 Mile, which would go to single family, which is a mix of zonings there. Behind Rite Aid, there's a triangle parcel to multifamily. Victoria Street, all the way back to Pembroke. And that was it?
Victoria to Pembroke to what? What do you want rezone to?
Oh, I'm sorry. Single family.
Okay.
And then everything else,
We do Roselle. Did you mention Roselle?
yeah,
Okay, sorry.
Roselle to multifamily.
Okay.
Okay, is there a second for that?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Let's skip the question part.
Oh, did anybody
Any
have
questions on the motion?
Sorry.
So who is going to present this to council?
Do you want to, or do you want me to? Just say.
Would it be this coming Tuesday?
Yes, Genevieve had me place a placeholder on the agenda.
A placeholder, is that like a napkin, a fork and all that?
Yes.
I like it. I'm gonna say yes till I see this come up and say that my wife hasn't scheduled me to do something
Okay.
else.
Well, soccer.
Yeah, it's soccer, so there shouldn't be anything out. Oh, it's playoffs. Long, miss the playoffs.
Oh, one of us will make it, me or Rob.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause it's not letting me in my hub anyways, but I think that's what that day is.
Anything else, or?
That's it.
Okay, master plan, general discussion, John.
General discussion, I think in our workshop today, we kind of ironed out and looked at the final draft of the future land use plan. And there's one other amendment that we were going to make along Victoria Street to extend the downtown district to whatever the other street was.
Albert.
Albert. So once I make that change, then it will be the final draft. And if we need to make any other amendments or changes, that is something that still is done, doable until we adopt the final version of the master plan. So.
Next up?
Next step would be me starting to update the demographics and really start going through all the chapters again. And really it's on our department to just kind of finalize a lot of these documents, just make sure that once we get these different chapters and stuff, that we bring you a draft. And then we will put together a zoning plan that will show some of these changes and everything else, and then we will go from there and send it out for public review and get it adopted. So it's, now we're heading down towards the home stretch. So,
Sounds good.
Is there anything in the surveys people saw that come to attention to, because quite honestly, I deleted it by mistake and didn't think about it until a while later, and then it had deleted out of my delete folder. So I don't have those results anymore, but is there anything within those things that came to anybody's attention as far as something that we want to put within the master plan?
There were a couple comments, if I recall the survey, there were a couple comments about recreation. It's not very specific, but there was a couple comments about we need more recreation, just something generic.
And I guess we're kind of addressing that with the future land map, if we could expand up the park on Haver Ridge.
Shopping and places to eat, bring back old businesses on Main Street.
It says outdoor activities, Chris, bike pad, walking pad, splash pad, pool.
You know,
I would like to see as part of the master plan an actual overlay of bike routes throughout the village. That's what we want, so that when someone else is making a change, that, you know, it goes to that type of setup versus, you know, a sidewalk or,
so you'd like to see like a non-motorized plan?
yes.
Like a trash type thing, or, okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it still exists at the county level, but going up New Haven Road from New Baltimore, there's supposed to be a trail there.
There's a plan to connect Lennox to the Baltimore.
So, I mean, in accordance with that, what side of the street we go on, so that, you know, flows without crossing New Haven Road or crossing Gratiot. I don't know what the plan looks like anymore from, I mean, it used to be on the east side of Gratiot and the north side of, but I haven't looked at it in years, so I don't know if that's different. Is Lennox pushing that more now than
No, the county,
the
I
county?
think it's more of a SIMCOG plan to connect Lennox, Gratiot, go up New Haven Road. Of course, the biggest obstacle is when we cross the freeway and connect to Baltimore. Then with the Baltimore being connected, then you just go down Jefferson and eventually make it over the metro part of it.
And again, I mean, I'd love to see that done as soon as possible as well. If these dollars come through someday from Congress for infrastructure that we can put in for our hopes for infrastructure planning, get some money for New Haven to do those things, sure would be nice. And my son would love me if there was a path to Lennox and Baltimore, that he could ride his bike from Decorah Park too. Yeah. Every time he puts his bike on that bike rack, he yells at me.
There's a lot of comments about walking paths, Chris, actually. What does do Parks and Rec have a hand in this? Like, what are they doing? Are they
So-
working on a piece of this?
So that's a good question. I think the Parks and Rec department or group would be involved with a non-motorized effort or recreation effort. They would be part of the programming and everything else that's kind of associated with all those things, like looking for grants, looking for all these different things. That'd be kind of a Parks and Rec commission effort.
But I mean the master plan itself. There's a Parks and Recs piece in it, correct?
There
They have
is
their own.
a section on it, and there may be recommendations for Parks and Rec, but it usually doesn't dive too deep into it because that's like a separate kind of effort.
Okay.
Yeah, which actually our Parks and Rec plan is up and needs to be kind of looked at the end of this year and early next year. So, and that should be on the Parks and Rec Commission.
Okay.
Was that plan tie into us applying for any kind of money? Did that have to be
Yes.
certified and done?
It has to be adopted before you can, yeah.
Yeah, in a timely fashion, I think February, isn't it?
February, March, something like that,
Yeah.
yeah. It needs to be adopted. If you are looking to apply for a grant next year, then it needs to be on file with the state by February or March of next year. So, yeah.
Should we have some kind of joint meeting with us and you and them to
I
help
think-
finalize that plan and make sure we have that done, then approval for council
I think that's more within their,
review?
that's not really, I think we'd be veering from our lane. Like, we started the path, now it's their path. And they need to do that. I don't think it's necessarily a county thing, or, I mean, I'm sure you'd be there if they had questions, or, you know, but I think it's,
Isn't it a slide-in basically to the master plan though, the recreation plan? Or is it a totally separate document?
It's
thought
kind of
it
its
kinda-
own, it's its own thing, but it has like an arm that's attached to the master plan, but it's its own kind of thing. There's actually probably more legislation that guides that document than the master plan, which is oddly enough, but that's because there's money tied to it. So the state gets more involved. But, yeah, like that's something where like our department, we've kind of brought it up to President Pridemore, that this was something that was kind of coming up on the agenda. And we've offered to support whatever you guys need us to support on in terms of Parks and Recreation Commission. If we can offer guidance and everything else, and then it really depends on what the village wants us to do and how much they want the county or anyone else involved in that effort. But the Parks and Recreation Committee, the commission should be kind of leading the charge of that.
I don't foresee, because that, the Park and Rec plan that's in place right now, because it was the first time around, I don't foresee any major changes to it.
No.
I mean, it was pretty generic. You know, it got specific in some areas, but for the most part, I don't foresee any major changes that would take place on the Park and Rec. Unlike the master plan, when we're talking about a lot of zoning and density and all those kind of things.
'Cause my concern there is that I understand that the chair resigned for Parks and Rec, and I heard somebody else was leaving Parks and Rec, so is it getting gutted and starting over, and whoever falls into that has to start per se over, and maybe Tracy, you could give the concern to, at the council meeting, that whatever, if they need, if the document they have is still good to, as Mr. Dilbert says, to submit for February, all great, good, and happiness, but if it's not,
can I ask a question? Does that need a recommendation from a Parks and Rec committee, or could council do it independently on their own? And just take the same document and just say, here we go, we're good, going forward?
it is the way we used to do it, but we didn't have a Parks and Rec
Yeah,
committee.
that's what we concerned. Now that the committee exists, I don't know if they then have to do some sort of action or not, but I'd imagine council would have ultimate authority, because without them, like, the committee wouldn't exist.
Right.
But I can double check that with my boss. And
That just might be a good path, just to ensure it's in place. I mean, you'd obviously take that.
Well, you said you spoke to Ms. Pridemore about that the Parks and Rec plan had to be some eyes on it and passed again, correct? Okay, so we'll give her the opportunity. What I'll do is I'll send her, we discussed this, just as a reminder. I think it just has to go through their hands, our hands, and then,
I don't know if they have 4 hands.
well,
Because I think ultimately, like, with a new plan, the biggest thing that would have to be done is updating demographics, right? Making sure that the goals and objectives are still like in line, and then if that's good, that's fine. And then you have to do a public outreach portion of it. Those are the 3 big things you have to do to be updated. If there's not any major changes, once that's done, it could be a pretty quick process. Like we did New Baltimore's in about a month. Like because we had to. And it was a time crunch, it was very difficult to do, and all hands on deck. But that's not the recommended course of action, but it is doable.
Okay.
If it's not much that you're updating.
Yeah, the demographic is probably the most important, because when you start applying for grants, those are the numbers that they're going to be looking at.
And those numbers are changing dramatically.
And we know that they've changed over the last 5 years dramatically.
Liz? I'm sorry.
That's good.
No, I'm just saying, I know they're having enough to keep up with manning the events that they have right now.
Right. Okay, Trace?
And just to circle back though to what Rob said about the non-motorized, because I agree with you, that's important. Can we do this here, or do you think they really need to do it at planning? I mean, parks. Is that something that we could?
Could we have direction from council just to get that finished up and so we submit it with both our plans?
I think typically it's something that is Parks and Rec Committee associated, but if that's something that the planning commission wishes to take on as its own independent plan, that's tied to Parks and Recreation and everything else, I don't see why you couldn't like initiate the process or something. There's like some gray area there, because you could tie it to the master plan, you could tie it to whatever plan you really want to. But that's something I can, once again, like at this next meeting, I can research it and bring some more clarity on those topics. So that way we can see what jurisdiction we have and what we can take on. But typically, like something that's not motorized or trails related is kind of its own plan for sure. And then it's just a matter of what committee it wants to, or commission it wants to tie itself to.
Because council's back to take on that project. And I say that because the Park and Rec Master Plan actually created that committee, so they were not involved in the original draft. And for the last 4 or 5 years, or however long it's been where they've been in existence, their focus has been on events. You know, so I don't think they really have the expertise or the wherewithal to take on, you know, I mean, it will be a new challenge for them, absolutely. And I think at some point in time, they may want to start taking on some of those type of issues.
They probably won't get it done by February.
Well, they have a lot of downtime I mean, they're busy now, but come October, September, October, everything kind of dies down,
Yeah.
so.
I
It's a
do worry
good-
though that if they lose a couple of their workhorses,
Well, that's the, yeah.
that,
Problem.
I mean, it's gonna lose
down
focus and they're gonna
business.
have to regroup, new appointments are gonna have to be made. That worries me when you're losing the people that are really the ones that drag the water around the town to try to get these events going. I thought they've done a great job, but if you're losing those, whether everyone steps up or, you know, I don't know what the total makeup of the committee looks like, but to throw on, just like Mr. Dilbert said, a whole nother skill set to, I just want it to get done so we're covered for February. Then they want to go into it and redig into it next year, God bless them.
Well, it's a 5-year plan.
Well, I mean, but they can always reopen it
Yeah,
anytime they want. I just want something formal,
exactly.
To grab
Follow the
money.
state.
Right.
approved, and get it done. I just don't want it to fall through the cracks. That all this money comes flying in for communities, and again, we're not prepared for it, so we don't get none.
Right. But at the same time, the parks are, you know, let's say they want to buy a piece of property and build a whole new, I don't know, tennis court. That has to initiate at Parks and Rec.
Oh, I agree. I'm just saying that some kind of report needs to get submitted before February.
I agree with you.
And they can
I don't
come up
agree with
with
that.
their plan.
Parks and Rec doesn't have the expertise to speak for the community. I think council, once again, needs to step up and take on some of these issues. Okay? And when it comes to recreation, when it comes to amenities, these lay people who are part of the Park and Rec committee, they did not sign up to be that.
No?
I will agree with you that they did not. I will agree with you 100%. But the way our ordinance is written.
It does not prohibit council from taking on these issues.
So the transportation plan.
Can I-
For you, I want to see what that looks like.
Can I go back to master plan?
Can we just make sure to include something as long as there's no objections to Gratiot Corridor Authority and Gratiot improvements? Explore Gratiot Corridor Authority, Gratiot improvements. I mean, I don't know how specific.
Well, I think we just say, you gotta say M19, because that's this, and then we've got our section of Gratiot that we
Yeah.
have with the county, right?
Yeah, Gratiot M19, all of it, just, you know, I don't know how specific, but curbing, like just,
Yeah, I can put Gratiot Corridor Authority and Gratiot Corridor improvements as part of things in the goals and objectives. Do we also want to put the architectural stuff in there as well?
probably, because it'll be a little while before we get to it, a few months anyways.
I do have an architectural thing I've been working on.
Awesome. And I feel like we've talked about a couple other things to throw in there over the time, but
I think the conversation at some point need to be had with MDOT as far as Gratiot, because nothing can take place without MDOT's approval.
right.
I think when we talked about 26 mile laws, was that something that we were talking about with Macomb County and their right of way? And how the width of that, if they're still planning on expanding it to
Yeah, there
go
was. We
But
did.
the current setbacks on 26 are in place to widen that road if they ever get around to it.
To equal Hall Road.
It won't get that wide.
It's a whole lot of bulldozing there.
Yeah, I forgot, Mr. Matt would probably know better, but like, I think it was like either 180 or 200 or
Yeah,
something like
there's-
that. The right of way. Is that not that the road's gonna go that full width, but it's like that's how much land I think they have in their
Yeah.
plans.
2 lanes and a left turn lane, that would be good.
And that extends all the way to North Avenue, Romeo Link.
Yeah.
Around that area. Which has been on the books for 30 years.
I think it's past their goal. He goes under the 2020 goal.
Yeah.
And I know it's a dream, but it's some sort of marketing plan. We should probably include that as well for businesses.
I mean, I'd really like to see
Have a
those two
reach.
intersections become similar to the intersections in other communities, like Lake Orion or even on 26 at Van Dyke, so that they become roundabouts, so that there is a pausing and a getting in and out, because it's such odd, especially at New Haven Road and 26, it's such an oddly shaped
Yeah.
intersection. I mean, I don't know how, like the police or the fire call is to there, but I would say at least every 2 weeks, there's something on Decorah Park about, don't go there, there's another accident. I'd say it's pretty hefty, the amount of,
It's quite often.
I would love to see roundabouts go in both those sections. One to slow down the traffic coming north into the village, so they get out of the village. And make that other one safe. I can tell you, my new driver, I almost had a stroke in the car waiting for him to turn in there. As the cars just kept going through and then the other one started, he's like, ah!
Your new driver?
Yes, he is fresh. And,
I
you know,
got
the northbound traffic just started going while he's in the middle of the road, which is where he's supposed to be per the police. I've been pulled over there twice myself because people try to turn from way back where and make the turn and make like a triangle out of it, where you're supposed to be all the way up the middle of there like baked, waiting for someone to hit you. But that's where they want you to be to make the turn. You can almost kind of go backwards. And most people don't even understand that or know it anyways unless you get pulled over there. Even the first time I got pulled over, I was confused. The second time I got pulled over, I'm like, you gotta really explain it to me because this doesn't make, a lot of sense to me, but it's a terrible place. I'd love to see us include something to those places also, you know, like similar to what we got out here at Gratiot, make a great place to, whether in a decorative sense, welcoming people to New Haven. I got a bunch of pictures of Lake Orion. They did a beautiful job with theirs, going down there, all the different things they have within theirs. And like was getting talked about Gratiot here, one of their corners like that, they fenced it and put in a playscape out there so that it was a safe zone for children to play. And it was kind of cool going down the street and you were seeing life going on.
It's interesting that you bring up Lake Orion because similarly they've embraced their high school, their school district really. And if you look there, they have dragons all over their community.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly how New Haven has rockets everywhere. And it'd be kind of cool to kind of see like, the village like, embrace even more, like do some branding around that idea and really,
Yeah.
you know, do those type of things.
Yeah, that playscape was a huge drag. It was very cool.
Yeah.
And then all their school banners were going down there as well for their graduates.
Did you catch me on the marketing plan, some sort of business marketing? Just generically, I mean, I don't know if we'll ever get to it, but, you know, nice to read. Anybody else have anything else they'd like to see as part of the master plan? Rach?
Nope, I'm good.
Rob?
Nope, that's,
Trace, Craig, Liz, Chris? Good? Okay. Anything else you'd like to share on that one, John?
I think the only other thing is once we get this content nailed down, I don't know if I told you this, but we're going to work with our graphics team. We're going to try to do like a nice treatment to the aesthetics of it so it looks good and there's all the bells and whistles to it. So, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, new business. We have none. Planners report, anything else? Public comments, we have no public. Call from the table.
nothing for me.
Awesome. Okay, motion to adjourn for 7:30.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, meeting adjourned at 7:30.